find out what's happened there, right in the heart of what's happening with the protesters and the police. We're gonna go straight there. Baton Rouge, are you there?
This is Carl Dix.
Carl Dix, how you
Hear
doing?
me?
Carl Dix, I hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, Carl Dix, where are you at now?
Right now, I'm at the state capitol in Baton Rouge with hundreds of people. We just marched to the state capitol demanding justice for Alton Sterling and an end to police getting away with murder. This was a rally that was organized by young people, high school students mostly, and it's brought together many different kinds of people joining in this fight. And there's been activity every night since I got down here. You know, people have gone out to the police station. People have been at the site of the killing. People have taken over the streets. People have blocked traffic, you know, because there are a lot of people who are very determined that justice be gotten in this case, that this cannot be allowed to be another case of a black man murdered by police before our very eyes. And then the system turns around and tells us that the cops who murdered him did no wrong, which is what they do again and again and again, and it's got to stop. And let me just say this. The reason I came down here was to be on the front lines with people fighting against murder by police, but also to bring a message. And that message is that this official state violence is built into the fabric of this capitalist imperialist system. It's one of the reasons we need a revolution, but not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why we need a revolution. We need to get rid of this system. And we in the Revolutionary Communist Party, which I'm a representative of, I'm Carl Dix, by the way, I'm a representative of the Revolutionary Communist Party, and we are organizing for an actual revolution at the soonest possible time, because until there's a revolution, horrors like these and the wars for empire, the attacks on women, the destruction of the environment are going to continue to happen. So that's what's happening here. I can give you a little bit more of the flavor. This rally is one that the police have not messed with. But then there have been some earlier things where the police were really messing with people and trying to stop us from making our voices heard. I can give you some flavor of that if you want.
Go right ahead. I want it. Give it up.
Okay. Because look, we went down to the police station, and actually what happened was a few people went down to the police station. And then it got put on TV that there were a few dozen people at the police station. Within an hour, there were hundreds of people there because a lot of people were looking for a way to express their anger. A few responsible people, you know, principals, heads of local groupings and stuff like that, tried to tell the younger people, because that's who mainly was there, that they should go home. And they would say, like, if you don't go home, the police are going to mess you up. And the young people would respond to them, the police are already trying to mess us up. We ain't going nowhere. And they actually stood their ground in the face of police, armed in riot gear with their shields. They bring out shotguns, armored personnel carriers. But these young people was like, we ain't going nowhere. We are tired of this. And then we wheeled our loudspeaker into the midst of it, and I started speaking on the loudspeaker. Did you see those videos? And especially the one in Minnesota, where you saw the sister narrating the situation after the cop had murdered her boyfriend. And there he was pointing his gun at her, telling her to keep her hands in view. Here you have the murderer telling the girlfriend of the murder victim what she had to do to keep from being murdered too.
Wait.
Arrest her, and her 4-year-old daughter has to comfort her.
Lord have mercy. Yes.
Slavery days and the slave chaser.
Yes.
It takes us back to the Ku Klux Klan lynch mob. Only now it's the men in blue who are carrying out the lynchings. And it really has to stop. And that's the way people felt. And they stood in the face of the police. Then they developed a new approach. And they took off running.
Yes.
Going down the street. And the police at first thought they had decided to leave until they ran down the street a ways and then blocked the highway.
Yes.
The highway that ran past the police station.
Yes. Yes.
Another face off with the police. But this is the spirit of people here, and it's especially powerful that they are maintaining that spirit in the face of attempts by the authorities to change the conversation from police getting away with murder to expressing sympathy for police off of the events in Dallas. People ain't having that. They're not having the subject switched on them. They're not being swept out of the street by this. And this is very important.
My friend Audrey, a young lady, fellow barber, go up to Art Seafood to buy some seafood. And she took my car, I just bought it, a nice little old Lincoln. It was sharp. And so she drove it up to Art Seafood, and you know how it is, Art, they're very busy, so she called the order in. So quickly she double parked the car to run in to get the order. By the time she got out, the police was around the car saying, hey, who caused this? And she called me. And she said, hey, Art, you need to get up here because I tow your car, they won't let me get in it. And so to make a long story short, I left my barbershop. I was cutting my probation officer here, Mr. Cornelius, Mr. Washington, I'll never forget it. I said, Mr. Washington, I need you to run me up to the Art Seafood. He ran me up there, and boy, that's where hell took over. That's where hell took over. Because all I did was went up there to say, hey, that's my car, and I'm sorry, officer, that the young lady was driving it. I showed her my ID and everything, and that was the beginning of my hell because those police didn't want to hear a word I said. All they wanted to do was say, hey, you ain't got no business parking this car here. Who do you think you are? And before I knew it, I was through in the car, and they took me to 5th District, and all hell broke out. They beat me almost to death. They stomped on my head. The only way I was able to survive was to pretend that I was dead. And can you imagine somebody stomping on your head, and the only way you can survive is to pretend that you were dead? That's what happened to me at the 5th District Police Station when I was 28 years old.
In front of the police station?
In the police station.
In the police station? In
the police station when I was 28 years old. Listen, if we ever find the archives of the Call&Post, John Lanier was the editor then. We look for those pictures, and once we find those archives, you'll see it. So you're wondering why I'm so passionate about police brutality and police murder, because my niece Rudenia can tell you that in the 5th District Police Station when I was 28 years old, I was almost murdered. The only way I wasn't murdered was that I had to pretend that I was dead. They threw me into the cell after I pretended that I was dead. They dragged me to a cell, threw me into the cell box. As I laid on that cell, beat and bruised and scarred and scared, all of a sudden I saw these 2 white officers come back to the cell. And they said, how you feel now? I'll never forget it. Thank you, Rudenia McCoy, my cousin, for re-traumatizing me. But then she said, how you feel now? N-word. And all of a sudden I saw this spray. A mist spray coming towards me. And as it hit my bruised and scarred body, I said, oh! I screamed as if I was in hell. I screamed as if I was dying, going to hell, because this mist burnt my body. They had sprayed this hot mace over my body, over my face, and all I could do was roll over to the nasty, dirty jailhouse toilet and try to cool myself with the water from that nasty jailhouse toilet. A short while later, the captain or somebody came by and saw how bad they had beat me. and was on their way, had me on a stretcher, taking me out of the jail to the hospital. My family came and said, what happened to that man? They said, we're taking him to the hospital. They said, no, you ain't taking him nowhere. We're taking him ourselves. So you don't have to tell me about police brutality, police murder, because I was almost killed myself. So if you wonder why I'm so passionate when you see me out in the street marching all night and at midnight for justice, now you understand. Let me have that music, son. Now you understand. Denia McCoy for traumatizing me all over again. But at the same time, I had to tell this story because what I realized was that she, all these years, had been traumatized also from running to the store, getting this paper, running back to the house, looking at my beat-up, battered body on that paper. So can you imagine, folks? Can you imagine that throughout the years this has happened to countless black men and women, even today? So can you imagine today, in 2016, to see what happened in Louisiana and other places, and with the great social media network being able to put it right in our face? Can you understand how black people feel now? Can you understand how they feel after so many years and years and years of injustice where rude police officers and police officers that have murdered black people have came to court and were all dismissed? Can you imagine that the prosecutor said, no, we ain't got no case? Yet little people like my cousin Rudenia said, Lord, have mercy. My uncle got no justice. Can you see it? All over the country, all over the cities, this has been happening. So they wonder why we're mad. They're wondering why it's got to this point. It's very obvious. Lord have mercy. The Art McCoy University radio show with Diamond and them taking those photos and shooting them right to social media. What I find out as I talk to people, y'all bear with me because I know many of you all don't want to hear it, but you know it's the truth. Many people in the greater Cleveland area empathize with the Texas shooter. Listen, I didn't say they condone it, his action, but many empathize with him. Listen, as I talk to people, grassroots all over the city, men and women, old and young, the most repeated comment I hear is something had to be done. They're not saying that they condone anything. They're just saying that something had to be done. In other words, even the most conservative of black people. And I know that my cousin Rudenia, she's one of the most God-fearing Christian Pentecostal people you ever want to meet. So when you have people like this with a change of attitude, the only reason I'm telling you this is because we're in critical conditions. We're in a critical times in our city, in the country, in which we must do something about this.